Hello, I'm not the doctor, I'm the normal guy. And now I'm finally going to appease the nerd gods by doing a video about the meaning and philosophy of the patron saint of geek subculture, Doctor Who.
And I can be Superman for you. I'll sweep you off your feet, and a princess you can be.
Hi, I'm Normal Guy, and this is Normal Guy vs. the World. As you know, this is a show where we discuss deeper ideas and themes in nerdy pop culture. And there is no pop culture quite as nerdy with more dedicated fans than Doctor Who, dubbed the Whovians. This 50-year-old British sci-fi TV series about a heroic alien Time Lord who travels throughout time and space having adventures with various human companions has generated some of the most nerdy catchphrases in jokes of any geeky genre series.
Well, if we're gonna die, let's die looking like a Peruvian folk band.
What are you gonna do? Moisturize me?
Muffet!
People assume that time is a strict regression from cause to effect. But actually, in reality, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Bow ties are cool.
And of course, Alonzi.
By the way, if you want to know who all the Whovians in the room are, just go. See which ones dart up and look around in fright. By the way, the TV show is Doctor Who, the character is the Doctor. Mixing those two up is a good way to get smacked upside the head, which is how you know the Big Bang Theory have never actually watched Doctor Who, otherwise Sheldon would have corrected Amy when she made that mistake. But more than that, Doctor Who means a lot to people. It touches them in very profound ways. That's why I decided to ask some Whovians what Doctor Who means to them.
Oh, that's a big question.
To me, it is kind of the quintessential sci-fi expression of finding out what it means to be human in various difficult circumstances. That's kind of why sci-fi exists as a genre, is to put humanity in really unnatural circumstances to just get at the core of what it is.
It displays a lot of worth to humankind through the way that the Doctor is this incredible being, right? He's this amazing alien, and he's lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. He's going around the galaxy, and he's saving all these lives and all these worlds and all these universes, but he can't do it without a companion.
The companions learn from him in the same way that he learns from the companions, and so they both bring the best of humanity out of each other.
And the kind of the second half of that, the other side of the coin, is that it also, the whole show is showing how much we need to be saved.
Community, not just within the show, because the show incorporates lots of different species and races and people from different backgrounds who come together to do extraordinary things, but in terms of the audience, which over 50 years has become ever increasingly broad and diverse. And I think that Doctor Who has done a really good job of bringing people from all walks of life together to talk about things like what does it mean to be human, or what does it mean to be a good man, which I think are really important questions.
Doctor Who, for me, means hope. As cheesy as that might sound, there have been a lot of times in my life where I looked at people, like the characters that were developed on the show, and was able to say, you know, if Rose Tyler, who was a shopkeep, can, you know, go off on all these crazy adventures, or Amy Pond, who was looked at as crazy and was a kissogram, and Donna
Right.
who was just a temp from Chesuit, could, you know, be the most important woman in the universe, so what stops every other person from being that?
As a more recent convert to the Doctor Who fanverse, what was most defining about the show for me is its view on love and loss. You see, they figured out a tricky way to keep the show going for 50 years, even though actors are going to retire or die. In the show, whenever a Doctor dies, he is regenerated in a different body, ergo a different actor. And through various reasons, he has to choose new companions to go with him on his adventures. Therefore, you can keep the same, characters and world, but have different cast. But the show didn't stop with just making it a logistical panacea. They actually made that part of the show one of its deepest meanings that they keep going back to. In Doctor Who, the characters are constantly reminded that everything ends, everything dies. Particularly, all relationships eventually end. The Doctor dies and is not quite the same Doctor when he comes back. And he always loses his companions eventually to someone or something. This, they contend, is one of the defining features about the universe and life and existence. As they say in the show, everything has to end. Otherwise, how would anything ever begin? This is not a unique philosophy in the history of the world, particularly in Eastern philosophies and religions. However, usually proponents of this view say then that because this is true, you shouldn't attach yourself too much to anyone or anything, because if you do, when you lose them, you will have suffering. Arguing against this view is more Abrahamic religions or philosophies that say that relationships don't have to end, that you want to fight for them, to preserve them. That's the whole Christian premise about trying to convert people to get into heaven, so that those relationships that you build on earth can continue in heaven. The whole picture of heaven is a banquet feast with all sorts of people in a continual relationship with each other. But Doctor Who doesn't do either of those things. Doctor Who says, yes, everything ends and dies, and is gone and lost forever. But we should still attach ourselves to these people and care about them more, not less. To not do that is to miss out on the best part of life. Now, as a Christian, I hold to the view that not all relationships have to end. But watching this show makes me realize that even if they did, they would still be important enough to attach yourself to and to bind yourself to other people. All it took was a goofy alien Time Lord with an affinity for bow ties to teach me that. So, props. Well, if you liked this episode, leave a comment and tell us what you thought. And be sure to subscribe to the Real Normal Guys channel. It is itself a TARDIS of exploration. Go to the past and see the Lone Ranger and philosophy. Go to the future, where we discuss Elysium and income inequality. Or what about Superman and Batman and economic theory? I agree. And all Z! But seriously though, subscribe.
Whosims, man.
It's a thing.
And Will says something along the lines of, we must look like ants to you. And Ten sits there and replies, I think you look like giants. And that is something that also, again, really, really captures Doctor Who for me, in that this character that we've created that is something so beyond anything that we are, to then come back to us and say, you guys look like giants to me. Can we just say that?
I don't see Alonzo.
We just agree that whole episode, though.
One of Earth's traditional ballads. Can't you see?
Alright, we'll stop there.
Russell T Davies has lots of snarky quips, things that are witty.
Probably why it
One of my favorite lines recently was when it was actually in an episode that I hated. It was the Trends of Lore episode, which I thought was bollocks. Yeah. She's like, well, why, if you knew I was here, why didn't you talk to me? And he's like, I was afraid it would hurt too much. And she's like, I can handle it. He's like, no, for me. And that made me cry.
Why would you bring that up?
But I think that's true. That's where a lot of his, putting on a brave face comes in. And being that sort of, he has to be the superhero. He can't feel pain. But he does.
I just need you both to say in unison once, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Should we do the whole thing?
Yes, do the whole thing. Do the whole thing,
In
please.
unison. Okay.
People assume that at time.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Seriously, even like. My favorite line, personally, is, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met someone who wasn't important. So I think one of the great things that Doctor Who has meant to me and to thousands of people who have watched it over the past 50 years is that even if you're ordinary, even if you think you're less than ordinary, even if you think you're subpar, you still matter. And you can still do great things for yourself and for the world. So that's what Doctor Who means to me.
I want to see.